So the Super Bowl is over. No baseball to get excited about. I guess we'll conjure up some emotion for the pathetic Knicks again. What's up, Tiki?
Yeah, taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who without their two best players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was out. I forget who other player was out, but it didn't even matter.
I didn't even really want to talk about the Knicks. I got to be honest with you.
It's hard to, BT, because what are you going to say?
I don't know.
Other than what we've
I'm worried what I might say. That's the problem.
That's true, but other than what we've always said, which is for a while they looked really good, running up and down the court. Julius Randle and it had a triple-double in this game.
Mitchell Robinson's pretty good.
Mitchell Robinson played well.
Fournier
played well. And they found a way to lose.
Uh-huh.
So what else can you possibly say other than put some more pressure on Tom Thibodeau?
Boy, you're really trying to push this guy out, aren't you? Tiki wants to fire. Just say it, dude. It'll be cathartic.
But here's the problem. I actually like what he's brought. He was coach of the year last year, man. They play with like a fire at times. But then they get exhausted. Like I go from seeing them running the entire game. They're pushing the pace the entire game. And then when it gets into crunch time, and they're just walking the ball up the court.
No point guard.
It's like, now you want to play in the half court? Like, you got all these points. You scored 100, whatever it was, 94 points in the first three quarters. And you're just going to walk the ball up and play in the half court when it matters? It just doesn't make sense. And so, who is that on? Who else can you blame? Is that on Julius Randle? Is that on Alec Burks? Like, it's got to be on Tom Thibodeau.
Well,
right?
It certainly doesn't
help. Calling
Randle
timeouts with like 39 seconds. Oh, I lost my.
I lost my train of thought.
I forgot what I was doing. What?
It's a job.
You've been doing it for 20 years.
Here is and boy, I mean, just hit rewind. Here's the encapsulation for this situation. Again, you could just we could say the same thing every night. Another game, another loss.
Yep.
Another game, more fourth quarter follies. Another game, more empty calories from Julius Randle statistically. Good when it didn't matter, awful when it did. Another game, more baffling minutes distribution by the head coach.
Yep.
Toppin played 8. Reddish played 8. And listen, I mean, here we are, middle of February. Please, baseball, come back. Please, let's get to the NFL draft. But, last night, if there's ever a game to win, last night was the game to win. Knicks are home for the first time since, February 2nd. I think it was that Grizzlies game, right?
Yep.
And the Thunder have been on the road 4 or 5 days, and you look at the starting lineup, and I'm sure some of these kids are going to be good. They're a well-run franchise. Their starting 5, their ages are 19, 21, 21, 23, and 24. I mean, that's pretty effective in the Big East. It should not be effective in the NBA. Like, the more I think about this, how the hell do you lose this game?
They're trying to lose.
No, they're not, though.
But you know what I mean.
The Knicks or the Thunder?
The Thunder.
Oh, yes. Yeah, my bad, yes.
They're 18 and 39.
Pretty much.
They're like, okay, how close to the bottom can we get? You know what? Let's play this 19-year-old, who just turned 19, by the way. Let's play him 38 minutes, whatever it was. What did he play, 39? No, he played 38 minutes.
With the overtime, though, keep in mind.
It doesn't matter.
No, but
play this kid 38 minutes, and he's going to score 28 on you? Trey Mann, he's a good player. He looks like he's 12.
I'm already bored.
I know.
I'm already bored talking about,
there's nothing you can say that's interesting
the problem.
about them.
There's nothing to say that is original or even thought-provoking. We have talked about this since our first day on the fan. They need a point guard. Young guys need to play.
Yeah.
Randall's got to go. Thibs has to be better. At what point do we just say, you know what? You don't deserve our energy.
Here's the problem, though.
Knicks?
Here's the problem. They're interesting.
No, they're not. They're not interesting at all to me. They are 5 levels below interesting.
In real time. Watching that game,
they're not interesting at all.
It was very interesting.
They're not interesting at all. I totally disagree.
Look, if you were there,
they are so uninteresting.
BT, if you were there,
I am now disinterested with the Knicks.
If you were there, well, you're disinterested because you know what the outcome's going to be.
So how can you be interesting if you know what the outcome is?
Because I'm talking about in the moment. Like, in the moment, watching that game, I was like, man, this is actually exciting.
The Thunder! They're 17 and 39!
It doesn't matter. They led by 8 at one point, and then they led by 11 at one point.
Interesting.
And so, in the moment, if you're at the Garden, you're feeling it.
I'm not saying you're not cheering,
you're feeling it. You're cheering.
Interesting?
You're like, all right, man. Julius Randle's been really
Ben Simmons
good.
at this point's interesting.
To
me, he's interesting. The Knicks are dead.
You know what's crazy?
They're not even going to make the play-in.
I spent the game going back and forth. Yeah, MSG, yes.
Yeah,
MSG,
look at you doing
yes.
your job. Go get easing into that
yeah.
local existence.
Well,
look
no,
at you.
because
Little Knicks, little Nets,
I'm just
little
like, all right,
Tiki, little Yanks, little Mets.
Who the heck is playing for the Nets? Like,
Yeah, I know.
Seriously,
I know.
Who are these guys
But
on
they had
the
to win
court?
that game.
Of course they
had
did.
to win that game.
But at some point, it was just so at the end of the game, the Nets were. I don't know. It was like 12 minutes left or whatever. Maybe it's the start of the fourth quarter. No, I think it was in the third quarter, and I flipped over. The Knicks game had 5 minutes left in it. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I get to watch the end of the Nets game after seeing the Knicks take care of business. Obviously, the Knicks don't take care of business, so they end up catching them. So the game time ends up catching up. And I'm like, how is this possible?
Fouls. Stoppages.
And that's exactly right, because of the Knicks getting desperate at the end of regulation and not being able to knock down a bucket for 5 games. So that's the frustration. But it was interesting for most of the game.
I'm not going to use that word at all. I mean, the Knicks were interesting moving into the trade deadline because I was very curious what they were going to do. And I didn't think that they would move Randall.
Yeah.
But, get rid of Burks, get rid of Fournier, get rid of Kemba, get rid of somebody so it opens up some minutes for the young kid. Like, that was interesting. At this point, it's just maddening.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do.
And incredibly repetitive. It looks like they'll buy out Kemba. Yeah, listen, Kemba's one of us. I want to see him go to the right spot. Certainly not begging on Kemba Walker. His knees are shot, and it's part of the part of the aging process, especially for a point guard, where if you lose the burst, you can't hide. But I'd love to see him get bought out, go somewhere where he's going to have a meaningful year or two, and have a little fun maybe in the playoffs. But interesting. Mm-hmm. I could come up with 30 words other than interesting for the Knicks.
What would make the Knicks interesting for you, BC?
Right now?
What would make if they fired Thibodeau?
No, I'm not going to call for that. I know that it's easy to get on the air and fire. I'm not into that hot take nonsense. Like, when it's time for Tom Thibodeau to truly get fired, oh, don't worry. It will be said.
What will that take?
I got to be honest with you, Teak. You might really have to. All right, I guess we're going to do this today, huh?
Not today.
Okay.
I'm asking you what would it take.
I'm going to give you an answer that's going to make me.
What we've seen is the mismanagement of minutes.
Yes,
we've seen a lack.
Dude, Obi Toppin played 8 minutes.
But forget that. Does everybody have the license to come down and just jack up a 3-pointer?
There's no real structure.
That's my point.
There's no structure because there's no point guard.
So who is that on?
Well, that's obviously a reflection on the system deployed by the head coach, but I will defend Thibs in this regard. He's not going out getting the players. He didn't want Kemba. Yeah. He didn't want Fournier. Leon Rose, Worldwide West, Scott Perry, whoever the hell's really running the show. Maybe when they determine who it is, they could tell me so I could really focus in and zero on that person for not doing a good job. I think it's Worldwide West, really. I think he's more about the player movement. I don't know what the hell Scott Perry's still doing here. Mm-hmm. I mean, ship him back to Orlando with all due respect. But what would it, I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to honestly answer. I'm going to take a little breath here. I'm going to answer your question. Mm-hmm. Hey, go ahead, ask me the question again about this.
The question is, because we see the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
We see some excited play early in games. They're running the court. They're knocking down 3-pointers. They're finding the open shot. Then they slowly regress to playing in the half court. We see the same thing over and over again. A 1-4 pick and roll, get it to Julius Randle, backs his way into the post, loses his handle, jumps, tries to pass it to somebody, doesn't know where he's going with it, turns the ball over. Like the same thing happens over and over and over again. That has got to be on the coach at some point, right? Or telling guys, hey, Emmanuel, quickly, you haven't knocked down a shot all day. You don't have license to shoot a 3-pointer right now.
He's going to be gone. He is. Everybody's telling me how good Quickly has been horrendous this year.
So
horrendous.
At some point, you have to say the coach needs to determine what's happening on the court. You can't just leave it to these guys to figure it out on their own, which is what it looks like sometimes.
I agree.
Right? You get Julius Randle at the end of the game getting asked the question, why'd you guys, slow down the pace? Well, I practice the half court all the time, and so I want to get ourselves into the half court. Why? You suck in the half court, right? Like, do what you did to build an 8 and an 11 point lead. Don't revert because it's what you practiced. You know what I mean? Which you guys don't execute well. Mm-hmm. So at what point does that fall on Tibbs? So I ask you, what will it take?
I love the way you set that up too. Very theatrical,
but it is what it is.
No, I like the preamble.
If you watch the Knicks, that's what you see. And it's almost every night.
It's even in victory.
Yes,
there are regressions these extended malaises where all of their inherent issues come to the surface. And the biggest, and I'll answer the question for you, obviously, but the biggest issues are no point guard and their best player is nowhere near being clutch. So when you incorporate those two issues, you're dead.
Because you got to give Julius Randle credit for the last 5 or 6 games, he's been really damn good.
Well, that's why I use the term empty calories. He's eaten in the first 3, just like he did in Portland. He was a complete stiff down the stretch, just like last night down the stretch, complete stiff. So I don't get overly enamored with 30 points, 16 rebounds. By the way, he's not shooting effectively. He's gunning, and he's still turning the ball over. So I look at Thibs as, let me give you my most realistic, sensible timeline. You get to the end of the season. Let's start there. There's no way you even think about firing Tom Thibodeau during the season. That is unfair.
Who's on the? I got to look at this
and that is unrealistic. Not happening. All right. So then you've got to determine what you're going to do with Randall this summer.
Yeah.
All right. I believe that if you are unable to unload Randall. For a package that is somewhat enticing, then I think that based on the contract, not that it's horrendous, but he's got a couple of years to go, then I think at that point, you begin to investigate if Thibs and Randall can coexist. Not that they're fighting, but like just philosophies and, the little friction, the way, Thibs wants you to play and the way he kind of floats here and there. So if you can't get rid of Randall, you might have to get rid of Thibs during the summer.
Yeah.
You might. You might.
So to you, it's in the summer.
Well, but again, I do want to be, certainly not this season. I do want to be fair. And I would even like for Thibs to get a chance next year with a different roster. But I got to be honest, Tiki, we're having the wrong conversation.
You don't trust that the roster is going to be different next year.
Well, why are we talking about Tom Thibodeau? Can he have a point guard?
I don't disagree.
It's like, put it this way.
Put it this way. But they have Kimba playing in a different role. And then he's a liability as a defender. So when you're in crunch time and you can't score a bucket, Kimba Walker, who's probably your best scorer, is sitting on the bench.
Yes.
Even though they couldn't.
And if you put him out there, he's going to get roasted like a turnstile defensively, which is completely against the core philosophies.
That's right.
Not to mention every NBA head coach, but specifically Thibs, who is defensively driven. So it's like, well, what do? Do you play the guy who might give you a little, structure offensively because you have none without him for the most part? And Derrick Rose is coming back, so that'll change. But this team is a mishmash collection of used parts and overachievers and to, on some extent, uninspiring players, players who are miscast, poor role allocation. There's a million things wrong with the Knicks. I think it's the guys running the Knicks.
So it's not Thibs.
Well, I mean, it's partially Thibs. He's not doing a good job.
Yeah.
Thibs has had a bad season. But everybody told me, well, once you got Worldwide West, here come the star players. Still waiting for one. I'm still waiting for one. You got point. Leon Rose.
By the way, that was the narrative.
Of course it was. Got Leon Rose. He's going to bring in the studs. I'm waiting for one. So what are they doing? They drafted the wrong guy. They extended the wrong guy in Randall. What are they doing? I mean, what have they done? So I know it's easier to just harpoon the coach because he's visible, and Leon Rose continues to hide, which drives me insane. I don't know how in this city you can run it, or worldwide, whoever wants to speak, how you can run a team, run it as poorly as they've run it this year, and not be held accountable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
I don't read anything about them. I don't read anything about what's happening in the front office. I don't hear it. What I hear is Julius Randle's a liability in crunch time. They don't shoot well enough. The minutes distribution is all jacked up. Coach Thibodeau doesn't get it, whatever it may be. You never hear about the front office. You're right, BT.
On this show, you do.
On this show, you do.
You really do.
But you read anything about the Knicks. You don't see that.
No, you don't. Listen, when we're here in baseball season, and I'm not saying that this is going to be the case because I think the Mets will be very good, but like say if they have injuries in the back of the bullpen, but their starters are lights out, the Grom's a beast as always, Scherzer as always, Alonso's hitting bombs, the new outfielders doing their thing, Lindor's off to a good start. Like say if the offense is there, even Cano contributes, McNeil finds a stroke, which he will if they don't trade him, but they lose just a litany of games late because the bullpen is hurt or just proving not to be very effective. Are we going to harpoon Buck, or are we going to look at Billy Epler and say, no, you got to get something for the back end?
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I mean, at what point, I don't want to say you absolve the manager or the coach, but the Knicks have been run very poorly this year, and there's nobody who's going to tell me otherwise. Nobody. Let's get Flip and Newburgh on the fan. Flip, what's going on, Flip?
How's it going, guys? Love the show. So
What's up, Flip?
I wanted to chime in about Julius Randle. I was actually at the game in Denver last week, and I try to take advantage of the ticket prices, not in New York, and sit close to the bench, just to see how he interacts.
Okay.
And it's just he sulks about everything, and I get it. Everyone in the NBA cries about foul calls, but with him, like specifically yesterday, he doesn't get a foul call, he stops playing.
Yep.
Fast breaks down the lane, his guy dunker layup. And back to where's the accountability? Like, take him out of the game. You know what I mean? Like, Thibodeau's supposed to be this hard-ass coach. Like, he's not even trying.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get the foul call, then on the bench he goes and he sits at the end of the bench and sulks. Back to when the Obi Toppin fell the other day, he doesn't help pick him up. Same thing with that. Like, all the other teammates are jumping up off the bench to go help players, and he just like he doesn't even care.
He's in his own world. It's like he's in his own world.
Oh, I'm done with Randall.
Yeah.
You know that.
I mean, but the challenge with Randall is that he actually plays well sometimes.
Until it matters.
Until crunch time. Yes.
Fourth quarter.
Well, that's
playoffs.
last week in Denver. He had 28 and 10, but like you said, those stats went. He has them in the first three quarters, and then he looks lost in the first quarter. Like, he gets nervous. Like, he doesn't know what to do. Like, the offense is a joke. Like, what are we running? And we're supposed to be a defensive team. And again, I always say offense in the NBA is God-given. Defense is heart and effort, and we have no effort, not even to mention heart. And it's just like this. I think it's a reflection, obviously, on the best player who's supposed to be Randall.
Yeah.
And Tibbs, like, no accountability. Obi Toppin misses a shot, he gets the hook, and then, like I said, Randall's sitting there throwing up bricks, not even giving a crap on defense, not giving an effort, and sit him on the bench.
You don't flip. Okay, go ahead.
I would say the one guy
Good call, by the way.
who does give it to you is Mitchell Robinson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson.
But he'll sign elsewhere this summer.
You're probably right. What was it? Who was it? Was it Roby? He got switched onto. I think it was Roby. He got switched onto him. It was late in the possession. Gets switched onto Roby. He's beat, man. And Roby's got an easy jumper from the short elbow right there. He recovers and blocks it.
He blocks a lot of jump shots.
And then gets the rebound.
Yeah, he's had a great year.
He's unbelievable.
He's been
his
very
offensive
good.
rebounding. Mitchell Robinson is a joy.
Yeah,
he tries
and he
his
should be a
ass
keeper.
Absolutely.
But are they going to pay him? And the Knicks aren't cheap.
He had
Nobody's going
17 rebounds last night.
By the way, what's his PR? It's got to be over 20. It's absolutely over 20.
I think he's I'm pretty sure he's the highest on the team.
Oh, he absolutely is the highest on the team because Randall's at like 16.
And I think it's
definitely over 20.
It's let's see, advanced. He is 22. Dude.
I mean, that's
that was 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah, and in 2019 he was 22, 23.
Smaller
this year
sample.
he's 20.7.
Yeah, he's over 20.
Yep.
And, if Mitchell Robinson ever comes back with a 10-foot baseline jump shot, it just is even a little bit of a threat where, you lure people away from the paint, which I think is another problem for the Knicks. It's just too congested in there. But if he ever gets, and I don't mean a Ewing jump shot, a Ewing baseline, Jay, but just like a modicum of a threat, you know what? You hit one or two, guys react to a pump fake, boom, you throw it on somebody's mug.
Yeah.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
So, God.
Let me ask you this, BT. At what point, and we will take a break when we come back to it, at what point do the Nets become more interesting of a watch than the Knicks?
Okay. You know what? We have to incorporate the Nets. We'll definitely do that coming up.